together discussion more about the movie. I made a Fandom is Magic podcast about it, so go watch that. This is more so a merchandising discussion about the brand. And there's a reason why I've been doing that, is because I don't know. I just feel like it. I've said this about World Tour, but we're in a different position. Band Together slash Trolls 3, I'm just going to call it Trolls 3 to be easier in this video. It's a real make it or break it era. Who knows if this is going to be the last Trolls film? And even if it is the last Trolls film, who knows what the brand is going to look like going forward? So, really, this quarter year and then the following year going forward, in terms of merchandising of the brand, it's going to be a make it or break it year and time. So, what would I do to help Trolls be able to have a longer shelf life? And that's simple. Now, I've already discussed my problems with the World Tour era, so I'm going to keep it very short. The biggest issue with the World Tour era is a very simple one. How the US treated DreamWorks Trolls. For mid-2018, when Hasbro and other companies stopped making Trolls merchandise because Hasbro just stopped making it until they got to the World Tour era, but also companies like Zack Designs who do the cups and things like that, they stopped because they weren't given any new designs or anything to really make merchandise. So, because of that, Trolls dead silence until they started making World Tour merchandise. And keep in mind, it was I think 3 months into World Tour coming out. That wasn't good for the brand. In fact, it hurt the brand. Because during that time, other brands showed up, other movies showed up, and they replaced that Trolls aisle, or they replaced them in whatever aisle they were in terms girls or boys aisle. They replaced them in 3 different aisles. And the worst thing is, when it came down to World Tour, both Walmart and Target did not know how to market it. Oh, sure, they were happy to have the brand when it came back during that quarter year. And half the time it had that promotional window, and then it had and then after that, all the merchandise went to whatever proper aisle they needed to be for certain pieces of merchandising that they had. After that quarter year and halfway into the following year, they gave up. Both sides. Either because they didn't want the Trolls brand on aisles, or there was just too much and they didn't want to put it on shelves. And because of those 2 reasons, they ended up going to Ollie's, which is a retail store that pretty much takes up excess stock from Walmart and Target or Amazon warehouses, or in terms of Walmart and Target, they just take stock that they do not want. So yeah, that's a problem. That's a huge problem for the Trolls branding in terms of the US. And then in terms of World Tour, while there were things I liked and things I disliked, one problem that they did create was a demographical problem. From 2016 up until that mid-2018 part of the brand, in terms of the toy aspect, it was for both demographics. But then the World Tour era, it pretty much gave the boys something on the side, but for the most part, it was really just a girls-only event. And I will say this, it worked for the brand so well. Because in terms of there was a licensing expo paper that got released to show how the brand's doing. And it was revealed that the brand does well from literal babies up until like preteens and juniors in terms of a girl demographic. Boys were just nowhere on that chart. And that's just simply because Hasbro and other companies just decided to focus on that side. And I feel like because of that, they lost that boy audience they had in 2016. And I can even tell you that's proof in the pudding. In terms of Twitter.com, I saw many parents very much sad that either their boys didn't have that much options in terms of the Trolls brand, or one particular story where a parent was going to have a Trolls-themed birthday party for their son, but they saw the decorations and were like, oh, this is too femme. Yeah, we're not doing this. So they did lose a demographic because of it. But I will say this, though. While they're okay in the toy department, they were a lot better in the clothing department. Now there's a whole bunch of options for the boy demographic of Trolls now in terms of clothing. So that's great. And that kind of leads me into the now. What would I like Band Together to do? And it's simple. Go back to 2016, and it seems like that's a huge possibility. Not only is Trolls has moved over to Mattel, but there's a good thing about that. Mattel and Hasbro have just kind of come together and said, hey, you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. Now, in terms of like, I want it like in terms of like board games, Trolls can have both board games from Hasbro and Mattel. So that's a good sign. And there might be some cool partnerships with but not only that, but like Hasbro had the brand for like 2016 to, I want to say they lost it around 2020, maybe like 2020, 2021, around that area. I'm not really sure, but somewhere around that time fragment. Hasbro can literally help Mattel in terms of like, oh, hey, this is what the brand was doing for like half the time we had it. If you want to copy that blueprint, here you go. Copy that blueprint. And then Mattel can go in and do what they want to do with the brand as well. So there's like a win-win scenario in that aspect. But not only that, Moose Toys has the brand. And that's going to be great for like babies and a little bit older. Not only that, I don't think Just Play will have to worry too much about their plushies. Just Play can do however many plushies they want, dip, and if Moose wants to do what they do with Bluey, in terms of the plushies, they can do that. But not only all of this being great, I think that they can easily do what they were doing demographically. Both sides of the coin having both playing fields to be able to enjoy the brand. And the reason why I say this is, well, let's talk about 2016 and the timing Trolls came out. So around this time, My Little Pony Generation 4 was still going and the movie was coming out in 2017. On top of that, their competition was Moana. So, you know what Trolls did? Trolls is essentially like the anti-G4. And what I mean by that is, well, it took them till Generation 5 to literally add one boy into the main cast. On the other hand, the snack pack consisted of both boys and girls. And because of that, you pretty much had like a Paw Patrol level marketing after, you know, they learned their demographical, after they had to learn a hard demographical lesson. But, you know, the brand looked like Paw Patrol. Like, both sides of the coin were able to get what they wanted out of the brand, no problemo. And really, it worked out so well from 2016 to 2018. It was a great plan. Not only that, but World Tour fixed the problems in terms of the clothing department. I talked about that earlier, so I'm not going to touch upon it too much. They fixed that problem. And I feel like now Trolls is able to be back on top of the world in terms of the US again. At the same time, Trolls is really going to have to do this in the Band Together era. And the reason why I say that is because Trolls' competition is not going to do Trolls any favors, really. Its competition is going to be the latter half of the quarter year of Little Mermaid live action movie merchandise. And that's one to really look out for, because I could say this. There's two options Little Mermaid, the live action remake, has. Option number one is that it ends up like the other live action remakes. Quarter year merchandise, maybe a little bit towards the following year. Or the Little Mermaid live action remake is just too big that it becomes its own branding, and you're not going to be able to escape it. So there's those two options. That's not going to do Trolls Band Together any favors. Then we have the movie that's going to be right next to it, and that is the Hunger Games prequel. Mattel has the license for the brand, and they make dolls of it. So that's not, even though the demographic ages are different but kind of close, that's something they got to look out for. The Barbie movie is another one they got to look out for. Quarter year, and who knows what the merchandise is for that movie is going to look like for the next years to come. So it's kind of in a Little Mermaid situation. So there's that. Then we're right back where we were in 2016, where it was Trolls versus Moana. Now it's Trolls versus Wish. Who knows what Wish's merchandise is going to look like? Who knows what the outcome's going to be? Will it end up like Frozen? Will it end up like Raya? Who really knows in terms of the merchandising wise? But we're back to where we were in 2016. And again, what saved it in 2016 was it was the best of both worlds for demographical wise. And Trolls is going to need that for Band Together in order to stand out from the crowd. And if Trolls does that, I think we will really truly we will truly be back in the 2016 era. But not only that, but if Trolls does not have a Trolls 4 in a few years, if that is not on the table and the brand goes on a hiatus, this will be great. Not only do they have Mattel and Moose on their side, but also a little bit of Hasbro backing. Hopefully Zack Designs and other companies get to have a lot more time with the brand and be able to, help it out a lot more, and you get to see whatever they got cooking more in terms of like merchandising wise. Clothing companies have like a lot more time to work with the brand and do a lot of cool stuff, but we'll finally be able to see waves of merchandise be able to happen again. But we're in a good position now that we have Trolls 1, Trolls World Tour, Band Together, a little bit of Beat Goes On, and a lot of Trollstopia. There's a lot of the brand that companies can now utilize if Trolls 4 isn't on a horizon. And because of that, I think Trolls will be able to very much secure its bag like it did from 2016 to 2018. And I really hope that's the case.